is the Secretary General of the United Nations.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to see you today. I think we have much to discuss. As you know, U.S. President Obama and I met in Washington on Tuesday. It was an extremely encouraging first meeting, both in substance and in spirit. That it should come so early is a strong signal of the new administration's commitment to the United Nations and its cause. Speaking personally, I would like to say that new President Obama is an enormously engaged and a visionary leader. I'm confident that he will bring to the international arena the same ambition and appetite for bold measures that he is bringing to U.S. affairs. Our discussions were wide-ranging, and we found considerable common ground. On climate change, we agree. It's an existential threat. We know what we must do. President Obama and I share a fundamental commitment. 2009 must be the year of climate change. That means reaching a comprehensive agreement in Copenhagen by year's end. Climate change also dominated my discussions with U.S. congressional leaders. Among them, Senator John Kerry, Chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Congressman Howard Berman, Chairman of the House Foreign Relations Committee, and Congressman Edward Markey, Chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Energy and Environment, as well as many members of their important committees. With U.S. leadership in partnership with the United Nations, we can and will reach a climate change deal that all nations can embrace. On the economic crisis, President Obama and I agree that the world's poorest and most vulnerable people cannot be left behind. I have since spoken with the British Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, who will act as president of G20 summit meeting, and he shares also this UN priority. We will press this issue at the upcoming G20 summit meeting in London. President Obama and I further agreed that green investment must be a major part of any global stimulus plan. If we are going to spend such tremendous sum of money, let us be smart about it. We had a lengthy discussion about Sudan, particularly the acute humanitarian situation caused by the Sudanese government's decision to expel 13 international NGOs. I have called on the Sudanese government to reverse this decision, and I do so again today. The concern of the United Nations in Sudan has always been and will remain peace and well-being of the country's people. For millions of Sudanese, these NGOs are a lifeline. They must be allowed to do their work. And of course, we must continue to push the peace process. We discussed several other important regional issues, among them first Haiti. As you know, I visited earlier this week with the former President Bill Clinton. We saw people living in desperate poverty. We saw a country still struggling to recover from last year's hurricanes, as well as decades of dictatorship. Yet we also saw opportunity. The United States has given Haiti duty-free, quota-free access to the American market for the next 9 years. We can build on this. It is a golden opportunity to bring in investors and create hundreds of thousands of jobs. We can make a big difference in Haiti. President Obama told me even with relatively small investments. At the upcoming donors conference in Washington, I expect the Haitian government to present a focused, prioritized national plan for reducing poverty and spurring economic development. Let us throw open this new opportunity, or window of opportunity. Let us help Haiti lift itself from darkness into light. Second, Afghanistan. On March 31st, I will open an international conference hosted by the government of the Netherlands. As you know, the security situation continues to deteriorate. Elections are coming up. Afghanistan is at another crossroads. This conference offers an opportunity to define a common way forward. I welcome the fresh thinking and focus by the new U.S. administration. But any military surge, I emphasize to President Obama, must be accompanied by a political surge. Third, Africa and the Middle East. During my trip to the Democratic Republic of the Congo 2 weeks ago, I saw firsthand the progress we have made on the ground. Our job now is to consolidate those gains and to allow millions of people to return to their homes and live in peace. In Somalia, we can see clear progress, even though the political and security situation remains precarious. Finally, President Obama and I agreed on the need for an urgent push on the Middle East. In Sharm el-Sheikh, donors at the meeting on Gaza reconstruction made large pledges, well beyond what was anticipated. The world has sent a clear message of solidarity to the Palestinian people. We must turn this support not only into recovery for the people of Gaza, but also into a revitalized peace process in the Middle East and between the Palestinians. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, let me say just a few words about misunderstanding that has made news yesterday. Speaking with a group of members of the House of Representatives, I noted how generous the United States has been in supporting the United Nations, both in terms of assessed and voluntary contributions. At the same time, I noted that the United States is also the largest debtor, owing more than $1 billion in area, soon to reach $1.6 billion. My point was simply that the United Nations needs the fullest support of its members, and never more so than in these very demanding times. And thank you very much, and now I'll be happy to take your questions.
Yes, the first question goes to the President of ANCA.
Mr. Secretary General, do you think really that President Obama pushed the reset button even in the relation between U.S. and the UN? And this $1.6 billion, do you think will be the new stimulus package from the U.S. to the UN?
I was very encouraged by such a strong commitment he has demonstrated. He has shown to me in person in the meeting that he valued highly the role of the United Nations, and he would fully support the work and activities of the United Nations. In the past, when we talked over the phone, he also said he could find United States a strong partner of the United Nations. It was very encouraging that he reaffirmed it, such strong commitment. Now, on this area, of course, United States is the largest financial contributor. With such a large sum of amount in area, it is very difficult for the United Nations to conduct smoothly all these peacekeeping operations and other activities of the United Nations. That's what I emphasized, and many members of the Congress, Senate, they have shown strong support for that, and also administration officials. Secretary of State and President also showed their commitment to resolve this issue as soon as possible.
Franco Siada?
Mr. Secretary General, I don't know if you realize it, but there was several kidnappings in the Sudan of aid workers, including some people from doctors from Frontiers. I'd like to get your reaction to that.
I'm very much concerned about this. I understand 4 staff working with Medecins Sans Frontieres Belgium chapter were abducted last night in Darfur, and subsequently 1 national staff was released. The staff were taken from their office by unknown armed men. I'm deeply concerned by this development, together with, again, attack against UN peacekeepers last few days ago. Security incidents and deliberate attacks of the United Nations and aid community over the past weeks and months in Darfur have increased markedly. Clearly, we all want to see the immediate, unharmed release of these staff abducted, and urge all parties in Darfur, including the government of Sudan, to fulfill their responsibility to ensure the security of UN and other aid workers. Yeah.
You have a follow-up?
Just on the same subject, do you directly blame the government for this?
Government, in principle, in general, have the responsibility as a sovereign government, whatever is taking place within their territory. That's what I have asked and urged to all the leaders in the conflict zone. When I met President Kabila, also when I raised this sexual violence which have taken place in that territory, that whoever or wherever might take place, the government should be responsible to ensure safety and security of all the people there. Yes.
Go to Tarek Fati.
Yes, thank you. Regarding your meeting with President Obama, sir, you discussed with him the issue of Afghanistan. My question, are you happy by the decision taken by President Obama to send more U.S. troops to Afghanistan? And especially you mentioned that any military surge should be accompanied by political surge. What political surge do you see on the horizon right now? And do you think this decision to deploy over 15,000 U.S. troops in Afghanistan would help endanger the innocent human lives of the Afghanistani people or not? Thank you.
During my meeting with President Obama, I commended his new and fresh look at this issue. And I think this strengthening military capacity in Afghanistan would be helpful and effective. At the same time, I urged that the political surge also should be accompanied. This political surge can be done by President Karzai and his government in engaging themselves with many other leaders, both in the government and opposition, and also by international community to help Afghanistan government to strengthen and promote, improve their relationship with the neighboring countries. In that regard, the improved relationship between President Zardari of Pakistan and the President Karzai of Afghanistan is very encouraging one. When I visited 2 countries, I both urged 2 leaders to maintain such good momentum. And there will be many other issues. While international community is ready to support militarily and economically and politically, then the Afghanistan government should also enhance good governance, including the eradication of corruptions.
Okay, we got yes.
Yeah. Can you say clearly, sir, do you think sending more U.S. troops there would help sustain stability and peace in the country, or can increase the number of innocent lives?
You should know that the security situation is still volatile. Therefore, to address this security issues, military strengthened military capacity will be absolutely necessary. But at the same time, what I stress is that the political facilitation would be also necessary. So this should go hand in hand.
Kayo Mambushita?
Mr. Secretary General, North Korea yesterday informed a UN agency, IMO, about its intention to launch a communication satellite in April. And what do you know about this? What's your reaction? And also, do you think it's a violation of the Resolution 1718, given the fact that the technology used would be almost identical to that of a ballistic missile?
I'm concerned about TPLK's recent moves to launch a satellite or long-range missiles. This will threaten the peace and stability in the region. I hope they will abide by the relevant Security Council resolution and return to six-party talks and fully and faithfully implement the agreement of the six-party talks. And at the same time, I also hope that the bilateral relations between Republic of Korea and the DPRK should also be improved. Under such conditions, this really becomes a source of great concern, not only of Korean people or people in the region. This will not be desirable to the maintenance of regional peace and security. I sincerely hope that they will be faithfully abiding by Security Council resolution and implement all these issues through dialogue.
Well, yes, follow up.
It's a violation of the do you think it's a violation of the Resolution 1718?
That's what Security Council members will discuss when and after anything happens. Yes.
Olaolu Akande?
Thank you, Secretary General. I'd like to ask whether you had any discussion with President Obama regarding the fate of Sudan's president, Bashir. And then I'd like to also know whether, what's your own view about what the African Union is planning to do, trying to call for the suspension of the warrant of arrest. Now, are you going to use your moral bully pulpit to actually stand by the quest for justice in Sudan?
Now, we spent some time to discuss and evaluate the situation in Darfur on many aspects, including this imminent and urgent humanitarian crisis caused by the expulsion of NGOs. I have already made our statement. The Sudanese government should address these peace and justice issues, fully complying with the Security Council Resolution 1593. The United Nations will continue to conduct its vital peacekeeping operations, humanitarian and human rights and development operations and activities in Sudan. I know that there are positions held by the African Union and League of Arab States and some other members of the international community to see this deferral of this decision by the ICC. This is something which Security Council has the authority to decide. That this is to be determined by the Security Council. But at the same time, as the Secretary General, what I'd like to urge and appeal to Sudanese government is that there should be a reasonable and credible implementation of Sudanese government on their judiciary, according to judiciary procedures, to meet the requirement of Article 16 of the Rome Statute before they expect or they move to all this issue of a deferral.
Okay, we go to Edie Ledro.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. I was going to ask you two follow-up questions on the G20. There have been reports that the United Nations may take on perhaps some extra role in monitoring what's going on in the poorer developing countries. Do you expect the UN to play any significant role in the follow-up to that? And as a follow-up on the Afghanistan conference that you said that you're going to open, who's going to be invited? Is it ministers? Is it heads of state? And what exactly is going to come out of it?
On the second question first, normally I don't entertain two questions, but this is special. This is going to be a ministerial meeting. And this is not going to be a so-called donor conference. As you understand very well the situation in Afghanistan, Afghanistan is still going through a very fragile and volatile situation in terms of security and their domestic politics. Therefore, we need to address all these issues from a comprehensive perspective. As you may remember, last year, March last year in Bucharest, there was a summit-level meeting on the situation of Afghanistan, where I attended. At that time, all the leaders reaffirmed and strengthened the mandate of the United Nations as key and coordinator among major international actors there. We will discuss all various aspects of the situation in Afghanistan, how we can help Afghanistan people to overcome these difficulties. Now, on your first question, G20, as I have repeatedly said that the United Nations' major concern and priority would be to ask the leaders of G20 not to lose the sight of pride and challenges of many hundreds of millions of people from developing countries. They are the defenseless and voiceless people who really need support, and without the support from developed countries, they cannot overcome this one. They have been very seriously impacted by this global financial crisis, and I'm going to write my own position to all the heads of state or government attending this G20 summit meeting. I have also discussed last Tuesday with the Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and I'm sure that I'll have another opportunity of discussing this matter with Prime Minister Gordon Brown sometime next week. Now, as a result of the Doha International Conference on Financing for Development, the President of General Assembly has been working with the members of Experts Commission how United Nations can contribute to this current economic crisis, including the governance as well as reform of these international financial organizations, institutions. This will be the subject of a topic of General Assembly discussions in the month to come.
We go to Talad and then to Karaman. Tala?
Secretary General, the arrear question. You had said that the peacekeeping operations were discussed as well as other activities. Was there something specific and a region specific in mind that you have? I mean, ideally this is not a good time to be prompting the U.S. with payback for their arrears, but if they were to come up with some funds, is there a specific peacekeeping mission that you have in mind in a specific area?
When the members pay their dues and contributions, we receive all this as an aggregated sum, and we allocate this fund to necessary activities. Of course, in the case of peacekeeping operations, when we establish peacekeeping operations, also we get assessed the contribution from member states. But first and foremost, at this time, it would be very important for the United States to pay all these areas. I had very serious discussions on these issues last time in Sharm el-Sheikh with the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, and this time with all the key leaders whom I have met, and I have received quite positive responses from the congressional and government leaders.
Karaman, then we'll go to Talal.
The Dalai Lama has recently said that China has turned Tibet into a hell on earth. What do you think of that? And in this regard, do you think the alliance of civilizations that is meeting that is going to take place in Istanbul, which you are also going to attend, can help divide the gap between the racial, religious conflicts in the world?
The forthcoming meeting of Alliance of Civilization is to promote mutual understanding and deeper understanding of different culture and religions, and thereby contributing to harmonious and very cooperative progress of the international community. I'm very glad that this process has taken a big step since it was launched last year in Madrid. And this second meeting in Istanbul, particularly with the participation of President Obama for the first time from the United States at the summit level, will create a very good opportunity to discuss all the matters pertaining to the differences of opinions and differences, and to promote the mutual understandings between the religions and the traditions. This will be very important opportunities. Yes. I hope by creating a very harmonious atmosphere worldwide, we will see the end of all the conflicts or difference of opinions, including Tibet issues.
Talal?
On the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, I just want to follow up on Frank's question. The Belgian branch of Doctors Without Borders are closing their operation also after the kidnapping in Sudan. Do you believe that the Sudanese government can fill the gap, as they claim, after the withdrawal of or the expelling of the 13 NGOs? And also, can you share with us your assessment of the threat posed to NGOs and the UN operation as it stands today in Sudan?
I do not believe that in the absence of those humanitarian NGOs, United Nations and Sudanese government will not be able to fill the gap created by this absence. While I have been discussing this matter with Sudanese government and many other leaders in the region, in Africa, in the Middle East, and beyond the region during the last few days. At the same time, United Nations has been mobilizing all necessary resources and agencies not to make any vacuum, so that we can deliver humanitarian assistance to 1.2 billion people. To them it is a lifeline, and without such support, there will be a huge humanitarian crisis, and that's what I am very much concerned. And I'm grateful to many world leaders who have been really working together with me to influence the Sudanese government to reverse the decision. Unfortunately, so far we have not seen this decision, and we will continue to do that. And my challenge at this time is that as this situation continues without seeing the reversal of decision by Sudanese government, then who can really effectively fill the gap of this humanitarian vacuum there? We've been working, I've been chairing the meetings among all the agencies, and Mr. John Holmes, Undersecretary General for OCHA, he also convened the interagency meetings. We are working very hard, first of all, trying to reverse this decision and not to create any humanitarian crisis so that we can continuously provide assistance. If we cannot, this may create some movement of populations, and because of the lack of sanitation and water, then this will create again diseases, very serious problems. Yes.
I ask you also to share with us, if possible, your threat assessment to the remaining NGOs and to the UN operation as it stands today.
Now, the Sudanese government has assured that, first of all, they may not expel other remaining NGOs there, and they even offered their own contribution. They would even offer their willingness to provide their national NGOs, but that will not be enough, far beyond our expectations and requirement. Now, on this threat, we must keep this, first of all, safety and security in the region. And I do not agree to what they have been, accusing that these NGOs have been creating, and making negative activities.
Okay, we go to Lauren Howie, the BBC, then to Ragida.
Mr. Secretary General, in your efforts to get the NGOs back into the Sudan, would you consider talking directly to Bashir, now an indicted war criminal, if it would help avoid a humanitarian crisis?
Now, as you may understand at this time, any contacts by senior United Nations officials with anybody who has been indicted by the ICC should be limited to what is strictly required for carrying out UN-mandated activities. And therefore, I'm now looking at the possibility, or even I have to first of all assess the situation, and I will make a decision at a due time. Yeah.
Yeah, Secretary General, I'd like to take you back to the issue of how you discussed with President Obama the issue of the Middle East peace process in both the Syrian track and the Palestinian track. I understand that you and your aides have been behind the scenes playing a role, or saying at least that you've been playing a role in as far as pushing forward for the Syrian track, and that you are part of this sort of chorus that believes that this is the way to deal with Hamas and Hezbollah. If so, did you discuss this with President Obama in this context? And given that President Obama had said about Taliban that he finds he can deal with moderates in Taliban, did you discuss that sort of idea? How might that apply to Hamas? That how can you step down from the conditions of the quartet regarding Hamas?
I cannot disclose all what I had discussed with President Obama. As you may understand, what I said to President Obama, and I really commended his immediate engagement and leadership demonstrated by appointing a special envoy, Senator George Mitchell, and also dispatching Secretary of State to the region. That was very much a commendable one, and the expression of a demonstrated leadership to be engaged in Middle East peace process. And I also emphasized the necessity of reactivating the Middle East peace process as soon as possible, including this unity of Palestinian people. On all these issues, I think United States and United Nations share same visions and same goals. As a member of a quartet, we also agreed to have an active quartet. Therefore, I'm very much encouraged that the United States and United Nations will more actively engage and facilitate this peace process in close coordination with the Arab partners.
Yes.
Yes, but Mr. Secretary General, can you tell us if you, in fact, you as the United Nations represented by you and others, are pushing forward to put priority to the Syrian track, and if that's how you discussed it with the President, and if by any chance you have discussed also, or you have in mind, stepping down from the conditions related to Hamas, so that it can be part of, since it is going to be part of a government, if there is reconciliation that you're pushing for amongst Palestinians. Do please kindly try to address these questions.
You may remember that I have myself been engaging with the Syrian government, President Assad, many times. I have visited twice, and in that regard, I noted with encouragement, the sense of encouragement that the United States has taken some move to engage with Syria and to have a dialogue for an improved relationship so that we can expect Syria can play a constructive role in the region. After all, I regard that Syria is also a very important country who can and who should play a constructive role for the peace and stability in the region. This is, I think, a right move. Yeah. That, we will have to see how the situation develops. Yeah.
We go to Philippe Bolopion, Le Monde.
So you mentioned a series of disturbing events in Sudan, the abduction of some humanitarian workers, the expulsion of organizations, attacks against peacekeepers. Do you feel at this point that the Sudanese president is engaged in a sort of retaliation campaign against the international community because of the ICC decision?
I hope it would not be the case. I hope that President Bashir will faithfully and responsibly carry out his previous commitment addressing this peace and justice issue in accordance with the Security Council resolution, and also commit to implement this comprehensive peace agreement and ensure safety and security of the civil population, aid workers, and United Nations personnel. This is what he should do at this time.
We have very little time left. We go to Bill Varner and Joe Loria.
Getting back to your discussion with President Obama on the humanitarian issue in Sudan, to what degree, if any, did you get into really sort of joint strategy on who to call and how to put the pressure on Bashir? And along those lines, do you think that really that China is key there, given their commercial interests in with Bashir, with the Sudan, the influence they've had in the past? I'm recalling Ambassador Wang's intervention, I think, previously. Have you reached out to China and really consider that they might be the key to this?
I did. I did contact already a few days ago, soon after this happened, with the Chinese government, and I discussed with President Obama, even though I'm not again here to detail out, but in the range of what you have just mentioned. So I think we are on the same page, what you think and I think. Yes.
Who did you speak to among the Chinese leadership?
I have spoken number of leaders in Africa, Arab, and beyond this region, but I would not detail out. But you remember that Chinese government has made the statement that there was a talk between myself and Foreign Minister Yang Jiechi. It was, I think, during last weekend.
Did you get a good response from China? Did they promise to help?
Yes, they committed that they would do all what they could do to influence upon President Bashir.
General Weah?
Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Secretary General, are you prepared to defend the President of the General Assembly who's come under heavy criticism from certain member states, even if you find that the majority of the Assembly may support him?
I would not I would not say anything defend or criticize what President of General Assembly has said, but what I would like to say as a matter of principle, that the responsible position holders like President of General Assembly or Secretary General of the United Nations should speak for the common interest and supporting and promoting common goals and objectives of the United Nations. That is what I'd like to emphasize at this time.
When you talk about political surge in Afghanistan, do you mean engaging moderate Taliban? Do you agree with that on the President's position?
We will have to discuss all the aspects. Basically, I believe that all the issues should be resolved through dialogue with the concerned parties. But for any detailed strategy, then we are going to discuss in the Netherlands. Yeah.
We have to end it here. I'm sorry. The Secretary General told me 45 minutes, so I'm true to my word.
One last question, since
You're very kind, and it's just a clarification I was seeking on something you said earlier. It relates to Sudan again, and you spoke of the Sudanese judiciary, or urging the Sudanese judiciary to meet the requirements of the Rome Statute. I'm trying to work out what you're saying there. Are you saying that your ideal resolution to this situation with Bashir would be for the Sudanese courts to launch their own prosecution against their president?
What I have been urging Sudanese president in the before, while engaging with him directly, was I've been advising him and urging him to take necessary, first of all, domestic judiciary measures, very credible. That's the only way which can be regarded as meeting the requirement of Article 16. Then I think it's up to the members of the Security Council and ICC whether their measures taken domestically would satisfy and meet the expectation and requirements of relevant provisions.
No, please, not all at the same time.
You can never say that it is too late.
No one is having questions in.
In any way, you cannot say that it's too late. Even now, I think they should take necessary. They can take and they should take necessary measures.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Crackdown in Pakistan by the Afghanistan government on the democratic forces. Would you like to say something about that?